Welcome back to Bargirl Baddies. Today's story is about a gift that became a curse, and how sometimes understanding everything can be the most dangerous thing of all. His name is Marcus Chen. 28 years old, from Toronto, Canada, software marketing guy, nice resume, decent savings. The kind of person who does everything right on paper, but feels completely empty inside. He spent 2 years learning Thai because he thought it would make him different from all the other foreign guys. He thought speaking the language would make him special, would protect him, would prove he wasn't just another walking ATM. And he was right about one thing. Learning Thai did make him different. It made him different because he understood every single word they said about him at that village salon, every laugh, every scheme, every lie. And they had no idea he was listening. If you've ever learned a second language in your adopted country, drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. And if you've ever overheard something you wish you hadn't, well, you're going to want to hear this one. Hit that like button if you've had similar experiences, and subscribe because these stories matter. Real people, real consequences, real lessons. This is Marcus's story. In his own words, "I'll be honest with you, Toronto in January of 2023 was killing me. Not literally, obviously, but that slow kind of death where you wake up in your overpriced condo, commute an hour each way to a job that pays well but means absolutely nothing, and spend your evenings watching other people live interesting lives on Instagram." I was 26 then. Good job at a tech startup, decent salary, nice car. My parents were proud. My LinkedIn looked impressive. And I was completely, utterly miserable. Emma had left me 6 months earlier. We'd been together since university. 5 years of the same routine, the same arguments about when we'd get married, when we'd buy a house, when life would finally start feeling like life, and not just this endless dress rehearsal for something that never quite arrived. She met someone at her firm. A senior partner, older guy, confident, probably made double what I did. She didn't cheat, I'll give her that. She sat me down one February evening and told me she needed more, that we'd grown apart, that she loved me but wasn't in love with me. All the cliches that hurt because they're usually true. So there I was, single, burned out, staring at my reflection in my bathroom mirror every morning, wondering when exactly I'd become this person, this tired, grey version of who I thought I'd be. I'd scroll through my phone at night, unable to sleep, watching travel videos. You know the algorithm. One video about backpacking Southeast Asia leads to another, then another. Before you know it, you're 3 hours deep watching some guy teach English in Thailand, living in a beautiful apartment for like $400 a month, eating incredible food, surrounded by adventure. The idea started as a joke, a fantasy. What if I just left? What if I sold my car, sublet my condo, got one of those online teaching certificates, and just went? My parents would lose their minds. My friends would think I was having a breakdown. Emma would probably feel vindicated that I was always too impulsive, too ready to run instead of dealing with real life. But here's the thing. That fantasy started feeling more real than my actual life. The marketing reports I wrote felt fake. The client meetings felt fake. The expensive dinners and craft cocktails with co-workers who I'd never see again in 5 years, all of it felt like this elaborate performance. And I was so tired of performing. It took me 3 months to actually do it. 3 months of research, of getting my TEFL certification online, of applying to language schools in Chiang Mai. 3 months of anxiety and excitement and absolute terror. I had about 15,000 Canadian dollars saved up. I did the math. At the exchange rate back then, that was roughly 345,000 baht. Enough to live comfortably for a year, maybe more if I was careful. Enough to figure my life out. The conversation with my parents was exactly as brutal as I'd imagined. My mom cried. My dad did that thing where he gets really quiet and disappointed, which honestly hurts worse than yelling. They wanted to know what I was running from. If this was about Emma, if I was throwing my career away, I tried to explain it wasn't running away, it was running toward something, toward meaning, toward experience, toward becoming someone more than just another guy in a suit on the subway. They didn't get it. How could they? They'd immigrated to Canada, built a life from nothing, given me every opportunity, and here I was, their only son, tossing away stability for some quarter-life crisis adventure in Southeast Asia. But they didn't stop me either. That's the thing about good parents. They let you make your own mistakes. I landed in Chiang Mai on a September morning, and I swear to God the heat hit me like a physical wall the second I stepped off that plane. Toronto had been crisp autumn, leaves changing, that smell of fall. This was a wall of humidity, of jasmine and exhaust fumes, and something cooking somewhere, something sweet and spicy all at once. The airport was chaos, beautiful chaos. Signs in Thai script I couldn't read, announcements I couldn't understand. Families crowded around baggage claim with flower garlands and hand-painted welcome signs. My apartment was a studio in the Nim and Hayman area. 3,500 baht a month, about 150 Canadian dollars. It had air conditioning, a small balcony, and was walking distance from the language school where I'd be teaching. The school itself was fine. Better than fine, actually. Nice kids, mostly middle-class Thai families who wanted their children to have good English skills. The other teachers were the usual mix. British gap-year kids, American Peace Corps types, a few Australian guys who'd been there for years and had clearly given up on ever leaving. Those first few weeks were intoxicating. Everything was new. The morning alms giving where monks walked through the streets in their orange robes. The night markets with grilled meat on sticks and mango sticky rice. The temples with their golden spires catching the sunset. I'd ride my rented motorbike through the old city, get lost on purpose, find hidden cafes and art galleries and bookshops. But here's what I noticed. Most of the foreign guys, the expats, they stayed in their bubble. They'd teach their classes, then hit the same bars, eat at the same Western restaurants, date Thai women, but never really learn the language beyond ordering beer and basic pleasantries. They'd complain about how Thais were always late, how nothing worked the way it did back home, how you couldn't trust anyone. And I just thought, what's the point? Why come all this way just to recreate your hometown with better weather? I made a decision then, a commitment. I was going to actually integrate, learn the language properly, not just survival phrases, understand the culture from the inside out, prove I wasn't just another tourist teaching English to fund a perpetual vacation. I found a Thai teacher. Her name was Koon Porn, this stern woman in her 50s who ran lessons out of her living room. She did not go easy on me. Thai has 5 tones, and getting them wrong changes the entire meaning of the word. I'd practiced the same syllable 30 times, and she'd just shake her head. "My chai," she'd say. "Not right." Again. The script was even worse. 44 consonants, 15 vowel symbols, tone marks, silent letters. My brain felt like it was melting. But I kept at it. An hour with Koon Porn 3 times a week. Language exchange apps on my phone. Watching Thai TV shows with subtitles, then without. Forcing myself to speak Thai at restaurants and shops, even when the person would switch to English to make it easier. Those small victories started adding up. A shopkeeper's surprised smile when I'd used the right classifier. A taxi driver actually understanding my destination on the first try. The satisfaction of reading a simple sign without needing Google Translate. 3 months in, I was getting conversational. Basic stuff, but real. I could talk about my day, order food without pointing at pictures, understand the gist of simple conversations. That's when I met Mind. She worked at a cafe near my school. Artsy place, good coffee, big windows with plants hanging everywhere. I'd been going there for weeks, just ordering in English like everywhere else. But one day, I tried ordering in Thai. My tones were probably terrible, but I got the words out. "Cafe ron neon kayu, crap. 1 hot coffee, please." Her face lit up. Not the polite customer service smile, but genuine surprise and delight. "You speak Thai?" she said in Thai. "A little," I replied, also in Thai. She laughed. It was a good laugh, warm and real. Her name was Mind. 26 years old, from a small village near Lampang, about an hour and a half from Chiang Mai. She'd moved to the city for work, sent money home to her family, dreamed of studying hospitality management someday. She was patient with my Thai, correcting my tones without making me feel stupid, teaching me slang and regional expressions that Koon Porn would never cover. We started talking every morning when I'd come in, then she'd sit with me on her breaks. Then I started timing my visits to when she'd be free. It wasn't calculated, it just happened. The way good things sometimes do when you stop trying so hard. She was beautiful, obviously. I'd be lying if I said that wasn't part of it. But it wasn't just that. She was curious about everything. Asked about Canada, about snow which she'd never seen, about my family, my life before. And she actually listened, not the way Emma used to listen, half distracted, already formulating her response. Mind would ask follow-up questions, remember details from previous conversations, make connections I hadn't even seen. Our first proper date was a hike up Doi Suthep. She packed sticky rice and grilled chicken, and we ate it at a viewpoint overlooking the city. The temple bells were ringing somewhere below us. The air smelled like pine and incense. She taught me the word for firefly in Thai, Hai Nhoi. We watched them light up the forest as the sun went down. I was careful at first, hyper-aware of the dynamics, of the economic disparity, of not being that guy, the one who mistakes commerce for romance, who confuses gratitude with love. But with Mind it felt different. She had her own life, her own money, her own plans. She wasn't asking me for anything. We split checks. She'd cook for me, I'd cook for her. We'd explore temples together, try new restaurants, watch movies at her small apartment with the fan running because she said air conditioning gave her a headache. 6 months in, we moved in together. My studio was too small, and her place was only slightly bigger, so we found a one-bedroom near the university, 10,000 baht a month, split between us. It was perfect. Morning coffee on the balcony, her teaching me to make proper Thai curry paste from scratch, lazy Sundays at the weekend market, and my Thai kept improving. That was the thing I was most proud of, honestly. Not just a relationship, but the language acquisition. I was getting good, really good. I could follow Thai TV shows without subtitles, most of the time. Read restaurant menus, street signs, simple news articles. Have real conversations with her family when we'd visit the village. Her family was traditional. Bob, Mum, Dad, younger brother, grandmother. They lived in a wooden house on stilts with chickens underneath and a rice field out back. The first time Mine brought me home, I was terrified, but I showed up with fruit baskets and tried my best Thai, and they were warm. Her dad taught me how to plant rice, standing knee-deep in mud. Her mum would pile my plate with food, always concerned I wasn't eating enough. Her grandmother spoke only Northern Thai dialect, which was different enough from Central Thai to throw me off, but we'd communicate through smiles and gestures and the occasional word I'd catch. I felt like I'd finally found it. The thing I'd been looking for when I boarded that plane from Toronto. Purpose. Connection. A life that felt real instead of deformed. I wasn't just teaching English to make money anymore. I was building something. Learning a language, a culture, a family structure, completely different from my own upbringing. The other expat teachers at school started treating me differently. Some were impressed. Some seemed almost resentful. Like by actually integrating, I was making them look bad for not trying. I'd stopped hanging out at the expat bars, stopped complaining about Thai ways of doing things. I had Mind. I had her family. I had a life outside the foreign bubble. I should have seen it then. How isolated I was becoming. How my entire social world had shrunk to one person and her family. How I drifted from the other teachers, from making friends my own age, from maintaining any kind of independent support network. But it felt like progress. Like I was finally one of those rare foreigners who truly understood. Looking back now, I can see I was performing again. Different stage, different audience, but still performing. Playing the role of the enlightened expat, the guy who learned the language, who integrated properly, who wasn't like those other foreigners. I tied my entire identity to being different, to being special, and that made me vulnerable in ways I couldn't see coming. But in those early days, those first 12 months, everything felt golden. I'd wake up next to Mind, practice my Thai reading over coffee, teach my classes, come home to dinner she prepared, or we'd mate together. Weekends in the village, temple festivals, family dinners. My savings account was healthy. My Thai was approaching fluency. My life had meaning. I thought speaking the language made me immune. I thought understanding the words meant understanding the whole picture. I thought I'd finally figured it out. Finally become the person I was supposed to be all along. I had no idea that every word I was learning, every phrase I was mastering, every conversation I was understanding, was building toward the worst 60 seconds of my life. That my gift for languages would become the instrument of my complete unraveling. That fluency and wisdom are not the same thing at all. The second year was when everything felt like it clicked into place. I renewed my contract at the language school, not because I needed to, but because I wanted to. Teaching had become more than a paycheck. I had favourite students, inside jokes with the staff, a routine that felt comfortable rather than stifling. Mind and I had settled into that easy rhythm that good relationships find. The kind where you don't need to fill every silence, where you can predict what the other person needs before they ask. My Thai had crossed some invisible threshold from intermediate to actually fluent. I could read the newspaper, though slowly, watch Thai dramas and catch the wordplay, the cultural references that would have sailed right over my head a year earlier. I dreamed in Thai sometimes, which Kun Porn told me was the real sign you'd internalized the language. Your subconscious doesn't translate anymore, it just thinks. The village weekends had become my favourite part of life. Mine's family treated me like I'd always been there. Her dad would call me Luke Chai, son, and show me how to fix the motorbike or repair the chicken coop. Her mom taught me family recipes, the kind that don't exist in restaurants. Real home cooking. The grandmother would corner me and tell these long, rambling stories in northern dialect that I'd understand maybe 60% of, but I'd nod along and she seemed happy just to have someone listen. Other expats at school would ask how I did it, how I got so integrated, and I'd feel this quiet pride, you know? Like I'd cracked some code they couldn't see. I wasn't those guys sitting in Irish pubs complaining about Thailand while living off their pension. I was different, I was special, I actually understood. That pride made me blind. The money thing started so gradually, I barely noticed. Mine's mom needed to see a doctor. Nothing serious, just some stomach issues. But healthcare in the village wasn't great. 5,000 baht for tests in Chiang Mai. About 215 Canadian dollars. Nothing, really. Of course I'd help. What's mine is ours, right? That's what you do in a relationship. Then her younger brother's motorbike broke down. He needed it to get to his construction job in Lampang. 10,000 baht for repairs. I handed it over without thinking. 430 bucks Canadian. Still nothing that would break me. Her mom's tests came back. She needed some medication, some follow-up appointments. Another 8,000 baht. Her dad's truck needed new tyres. 15,000 baht. The family wanted to make merit at the temple for grandmother's birthday. 12,000 baht. I kept a mental tally at first. Then I stopped, because it felt petty. We were building a life together. Her family was my family now. This is what families do. They help each other. The Canadian in me, the good immigrant son of parents who'd sacrificed everything, I understood obligation. I understood duty. By month 15 of living together, I'd gone through about 160,000 baht helping with family expenses, roughly 7,000 Canadian dollars. My savings had dropped from the original 345,000 baht to about 180,000. Still comfortable. Still safe. Teaching covered my living expenses, and I wasn't spending money on much else. No nights out drinking, no expensive hobbies. Just life with Mind and her family. The red flags were there. I can see them now with the clarity of hindsight, sharp and obvious as road signs I somehow drove right past. Mind got a new iPhone. When I asked about it, she said her cousin had given her an old one. He wasn't using anymore. Except it wasn't old. It was the newest model. I let it go. She started taking weekend trips to Bangkok. Girl trips, she said. Her friends from the village, they'd go shopping, stay with the cousin, come back Sunday night. She'd show me photos. Chatuchak market, fancy cafes, rooftop bars. I didn't think to wonder how they afforded those places. How unemployed village girls had money for weekend trips to Bangkok. The money requests kept coming, but the explanations got vaguer. Her mum needed more treatment. Her brother had an emergency. The family farm needed repairs after a storm. I'd ask for details, and Mind would get this look. Hurt. Like I didn't trust her. Like I was being a typical foreigner, suspicious and controlling. So I'd apologize and transfer the money. I drifted from the other teachers almost completely by then. They'd invite me out, and I'd decline. Friday night drinks, weekend trips to the islands, someone's going away party. I always had plans with Mind, or we were going to the village, or I was just tired. The truth was I felt superior to them. They were stuck in the expat bubble, and I'd transcended it. I had a real life, a real relationship, real integration. What I actually had was isolation. No friends, my own age, no support network outside Mind and her family. My entire social world had contracted to one person and the people connected to her. When you're that isolated, you can't see clearly. There's no outside perspective, no friend to pull you aside and say, "Hey man, Are you sure about this? My parents would call every couple weeks. They'd ask about money, about my plans, about whether this Thailand thing was still temporary or if I'd forgotten about real life. I'd get defensive. Tell them I was fine. I was happy. I was learning and growing in ways I never could have in Toronto. They'd go quiet. That worried silence parents do when they see you making mistakes, but no, they can't stop you. I was down to about 80,000 baht in savings by the time the salon happened, roughly 3,400 Canadian dollars. Not broke, but getting there. 18 months of relationship, probably 16,000 Canadian dollars gone. I didn't think of it as gone though. I thought of it as invested. In our future. In the family. In building something real. It was a Saturday morning in March. Hot already, the kind of heat where the air feels thick. Mind wanted to get her hair done. There was a salon she loved in the village, run by some aunties she'd known since childhood. Would I drive her? Of course. I'd wait in the car, grab a coffee somewhere, come back in an hour. But when we got there, the place was packed. 6 or 7 women already waiting, getting perms and dyes and gossip in equal measure. And it had started raining, not hard, but steady. That warm rain that turns everything muggy. Come inside, mine said. You can't sit in the car in this rain. Just wait here. They have a chair in the corner. I'll be quick. The salon was tiny. Plastic chairs, mirrors with lights around them, posters of K-pop stars with impossibly perfect hair. The air smelled like chemicals and jasmine and hairspray. Thai pop music played from a phone speaker somewhere. The aunties were all village women, probably in their 40s and 50s. Warm smiles, quick hands, constant chatter. They said hello to me in simple Thai. Sawasde, ka. How are you? I smiled and waved. Took a seat in the corner near the window, pulled out my phone, became part of the furniture. And here's the thing they didn't know, none of them knew. My Thai was fluent now, not just conversational. Actually fluent. I could understand rapid speech, slang, village dialect mixed with central Thai. I could follow multiple people talking over each other. I could catch implications, jokes, cultural references. My language learning had been so gradual, so steady, that even mine sometimes forgot how much I understood. She'd translate things for me out of habit, and I'd have to remind her I already knew. But these aunties had never heard me speak beyond Sawasdee crap. They assumed what everyone assumes. Foreign boyfriend probably knows 5 words, definitely doesn't understand the real conversation. So they talked. Oh, they talked. It started innocent enough. One of the aunties asking Mind about me, how long we'd been together, whether I was a good boyfriend, Mind laughing, saying yes, very good, very generous. The women nodding approvingly. Then one of them, a woman with bright red lipstick cutting another customer's hair, she said something that made my stomach drop. So when are you getting the dental work done? The auntie asked in Thai. The expensive one you mentioned. Mind was under a hairdryer, flipping through a magazine. She said casually, in Thai, next month. He's paying for it. 25,000 baht. I kept my eyes on my phone, didn't move. 25,000 baht. She'd never mentioned dental work to me. That's over 1,000 Canadian dollars. The auntie with the red lipstick laughed. These foreigners, she said, so generous. Does he know about Boom? My heart stopped, literally felt like it stopped beating for a second. Mind laughed too. A light, easy laugh. Of course not, she said in Thai. Boom stays in Bangkok. It's easy. The salon exploded in knowing laughter. All the aunties, all the customers, like this was the funniest thing they'd heard all week. I sat there, phone in my hand, face neutral, understanding every single word. Another woman chimed in. Is Boom still working at that garage? Mine nodded, still flipping through her magazine like she was discussing the weather. Yes, she said. Actually, the money from this one, she gestured vaguely in my direction without looking. Half of it goes to Boom. He's buying a new truck. More laughter. Oh, Mind, one of the aunties said. You're too smart. Milk the foreigner, keep the Thai boyfriend happy. Best of both worlds. The woman getting her hair cut near me, she leaned in conspiratorially. But what about the family money? All those emergencies? Mind shrugged under the dryer. Some of it's real, she said. Mom did need medication. But the amounts, I add a little extra. They don't question it. Her mother's medication may be 5,000 baht. But I tell him 8,000, 10,000, The difference is mine. And your brother's motorbike? Someone asked. Mind grinned. He bought that himself 3 months before I even asked for money. But the foreigner doesn't know that. I felt like I was underwater. Everything sounded muffled and distant. The pop music, the rain, the scissors snipping. All of it surreal, like a dream where you're watching yourself from outside your body. The conversation kept going. The aunties were on a roll now, sharing their own stories. One woman's daughter had a foreign boyfriend, sending money every month from Germany. Another woman's niece had 2 foreigners supporting her, neither knowing about the other. They talked about it like a business strategy, tips and tricks. How long you could keep it going. When to ask for big amounts versus small. How to make them feel special so they don't question. One of the older aunties, dyeing someone's hair bright orange, she said to Mind, but this one speaks Thai, no? Doesn't that make it harder? Mind laughed again. That cruel, casual laugh that I'll hear in my nightmares forever. That's what makes it easier, she said in Thai. He thinks because he learned the language, he understands everything. He thinks he's special. Different from other foreigners. She paused, and I could hear the smile in her voice even though I wasn't looking at her. It makes him trust me more. He feels like he earned his place in the family. The aunties cackled. Oh, that's good, one said. That's very good. Use his pride against him. How much longer can you keep this going? Someone asked. Mind considered. Maybe another year if I'm smart about it, she said. He's already talking about marriage. If I can string Nat along, get an engagement ring, have a big expensive ceremony, I could probably get another 200,000 baht out of him easily. Then, after the wedding, I'll just slowly disappear. Say I'm visiting family, stay longer each time. Eventually, he'll get the hint. What about guilt? An auntie asked. He seems like a nice boy. Mind's response was the worst part, the part that replayed in my head for months afterward. She said in perfect casual Thai, he's nice, yes. But he's also weak. Lonely foreigners are always weak. They confuse sex with love, attention with connection. He wanted to feel special, and I gave him that feeling. That's the transaction. His money for my performance. He got what he paid for. The Salon agreed. Murmurs of approval. One woman said her philosophy was simple. Foreigners have money, we have beauty and time. It's just economics, nothing personal. They moved on to other topics. Someone's daughter getting married, the price of rice, a new somtam vendor near the market, just normal conversation. Like they hadn't just dissected my entire relationship, my entire life in Thailand, my entire sense of self, and found it all to be an elaborate con. I sat there for 40 more minutes. I didn't move, didn't react, didn't let my face show anything. I scrolled through my phone, seeing nothing. My hands were steady, even though my insides were screaming. When Mind was done, hair blown out and perfect, she came over smiling. Ready? She asked in Thai. I smiled back. Sway Mark, I said, very beautiful. She beamed. We drove home in the rain. She talked about her hair, about how good it felt to gossip with the aunties, about what we should have for dinner. I made appropriate sounds, Dot nodded at the right moments, kept both hands on the handlebars of the motorbike so they wouldn't shake. Inside our apartment, she went to shower. I sat on the edge of the bed, stared at nothing. My phone buzzed. A text from my mom asking how I was. I didn't answer. Everything looked the same. Our bedroom. The photos on the wall. Her clothes mixed with mine in the closet. The coffee mugs we bought together at the weekend market. All of it exactly the same as it had been this morning, but completely different. Like finding out the whole world is a stage set and you're the only one who didn't know it was fake. She came out of the shower in a towel, hair wet. Asked if I was okay. I said I was fine. Just tired. She kissed my forehead and went to make dinner. I waited until she was in the kitchen. Then I opened her phone. I knew her passcode. We'd never hidden our phones from each other. Why would we? We trusted each other. We were building a life together. Except we weren't. The messages with Boom were right there. Photos of them together. Him shirtless, tattoos across his chest, sitting on a new truck, her in his lap. Dated from 2 weeks ago when she'd been on her girl trip to Bangkok. Hundreds of messages. Years of messages. Overlapping with our entire relationship. Money transfer screenshots. My money. Being sent to him. 17,000 baht for the truck down payment. 10,000 here. 8,000 there. All my savings, all those family emergencies, half of it going straight to her real boyfriend in Bangkok. There were messages about me, joking about the stupid foreigner, how easy I was, how she could probably get more if she played it right. Him encouraging her, telling her to drain me dry before moving on to the next one. I put her phone back exactly where I found it, went to the bathroom, stared at myself in the mirror. The face looking back at me was a stranger, someone who thought learning a language meant understanding people, someone who thought generosity without boundaries was love, someone so desperate to feel special that he'd missed every single warning sign. I heard her humming in the kitchen, singing along to some Thai pop song, making dinner for her stupid, weak, lonely foreigner who'd confused attention with connection, who'd paid good money for her performance. And the worst part, the absolute worst part, was that one had done exactly what she said. I'd used my pride against myself. Every baht I'd given her, every time I'd ignored a red flag, every time I'd told myself I was different from other foreigners because I spoke the language, I'd been playing directly into her hands. I didn't sleep that night. Lay next to her in the dark, listening to her breathe. This person I thought I knew. This person I'd built my entire life around. This complete and utter stranger. By sunrise, I had a plan. And it didn't involve confrontation. It didn't involve yelling or crying or demanding answers. Those were things you did when you expected the other person to care about your pain. I wasn't going to give her that satisfaction. The next 3 days were the strangest performance of my life. I woke up next to Mind every morning, made coffee, taught my classes, came home to dinner, had conversations about nothing, laughed at appropriate moments. We had sex twice. I kissed her goodnight. And the entire time I was planning my exit with the cold precision of someone defusing a bomb. I didn't confront her, didn't yell, didn't cry, didn't ask for explanations I already had. Because what would be the point? She'd shown me exactly who she was. Not in that salon intentionally, but she'd shown me. And I'd shown myself who I was too. Someone so desperate to belong that I'd bankrupted myself emotionally and financially for a fantasy. Monday morning, I called the language school, told them I had a family emergency back home. My voice was steady, apologetic. They were understanding. These things happen. I'd been a good teacher. They'd be sad to see me go. But of course, family comes first. I could leave end of the week. They'd sort out my last paycheck, my deposit on the apartment, all the administrative details. I went to the airline's website during my lunch break, found a flight to Toronto via Bangkok. Leaving Friday night. One-way ticket, 28,000 baht. About 1,200 Canadian dollars. I had just enough in my account to cover it and still have some emergency money left. I didn't pack, obviously, just took a few things each day. A couple shirts into my school bag, my passport and important documents hidden in my backpack, my laptop, the Canadian bank card I hadn't used in 2 years. I left most of my stuff. The clothes, the books, the motorbike I'd bought. All of it felt contaminated now. Remnants of a person I'd been pretending to be. Mind noticed nothing. Why would she? I was performing perfectly. Tuesday night we watched a movie. Wednesday, I helped her mom over video call with some paperwork, translating Thai bureaucracy into something her limited English could understand. The irony of helping the woman whose fake medical bills had cost me thousands wasn't lost on me. Thursday evening, Mind asked if I wanted to go to the village this weekend. I said maybe next weekend. I was feeling tired. She kissed my cheek and said I worked too hard. Friday morning, I taught my last class. The kids made me cards. One little girl named Ploy drew a picture of me with a huge smile. She'd written "Best Teacher" in careful English letters. I had to step into the hallway to collect myself. These kids were real. Their affection was real. Mind's family's warmth had probably been real too in its way. Just because the relationship was transactional didn't mean every single moment was fake. That nuance would take me months to understand. I came home Friday afternoon. Mind was at the cafe working until 7. I had 3 hours. I withdrew what was left of my savings. About 52,000 baht, roughly 2,200 Canadian dollars, left from my original 15,000. 18 months in Thailand. $13,000 gone. I tried not to do the math on what that money could have been. A down payment on a condo in Toronto. A new car. 6 months of living expenses while I found a better job. Instead, it was scattered across a fake medical emergency, a real truck in Bangkok owned by some guy named Boom, and whatever else Mind had spent it on. Rent in a city she visited to see her actual boyfriend. Fancy dinners I'd never been invited to. That new iPhone her cousin definitely hadn't given her. I left 20,000 baht on the kitchen counter. About 860 Canadian dollars. Ridiculous, I know. But I needed to, not for her. For me. So I could tell myself I hadn't just disappeared like a coward. So I could maintain some fiction of dignity. I wrote a note in English. Short, simple. Family emergency back home. Have to leave immediately. This should cover my half of rent and bills for the next 2 months. Take care. No explanation. No accusations. No emotion. Just clean and transactional. The way our entire relationship had actually been all along. I took one last look around the apartment. The balcony where we'd had morning coffee. The kitchen where she'd taught me to make green curry from scratch, pounding the paste in a mortar while I chopped ingredients. The bed we'd shared for over a year. The life I thought I was building. Then I picked up my backpack and walked out. The taxi ride to the airport took 40 minutes. I watched Chiang Mai slide past the windows, the moat around the old city, the temples with their golden spires, the street food vendors setting up for the evening rush, the motorbikes weaving through traffic. 2 years of my life in this place. 2 years of growth and learning and mistakes and one spectacular act of self-deception. My phone buzzed. A text from Mind. Just finished work. Picking up some tam for dinner. Want anything else? I turned off my phone. Bangkok airport was chaos. Friday night, peak travel season. Families going on vacation, business travellers. Backpackers starting their Southeast Asian adventures. I saw a group of young Western guys, early 20s, laughing and excited. Probably heading to the islands. One of them had a Lonely Planet guide. Another wore a Chang beer tank top he'd definitely bought at Khao San Road. I wanted to warn them. Tell them to be careful, that learning a language doesn't make you immune. That generosity without boundaries is just being used. That you can be smart and educated and still get completely played if you're lonely enough. But I didn't. They'd learn their own lessons, or they wouldn't. Either way, it wasn't my story to tell them. Not yet. The flight was 12 hours to Vancouver, with a connection to Toronto. I didn't sleep, just stared out the window at the darkness. Somewhere over the Pacific Ocean, I deleted my Thai language apps. Duolingo, Anki flashcards, the Thai dictionary, all of it. 2 years of study. Hundreds of hours. Advanced fluency I'd probably never use again. Gone with a few taps. My phone stayed off until I landed in Vancouver. When I turned it on, there were 47 messages from Mind. The progression was almost funny in its predictability. First few messages were confused. Where was I? Why wasn't I answering? Then, concerned. Was I okay? Had something happened? Then she'd found the note. The money. Messages asking which family member, what emergency, when was I coming back? Then, suspicious. Why hadn't I told her? Why did I leave so suddenly? Then angry. How could I just leave? What about us? What about our plans? The last message, sent 2 hours ago, just said, I know you know. I blocked her number. Blocked her on every social media platform. Blocked Boom too, though we'd never been connected. Blocked the whole thing like you'd block a wound to stop the bleeding. Toronto in March was exactly as grey and cold as I'd left it. My parents picked me up from the airport. They didn't ask questions, just hugged me. My mom cried a little. My dad carried my backpack to the car. We drove to their house in Markham in silence. I crashed in my childhood bedroom for 3 days, slept probably 18 hours a day. When I was awake, I just stared at the ceiling. My mum brought me food I'd barely touched. My dad left me alone, which was exactly what I needed. On day 4, my mum sat on the edge of my bed. Honey, she said softly, we're not going to push. But when you're ready to talk, we're here. I told them everything. The relationship, the money, the salon, all of it. They listened without interrupting. Didn't say I told you so. Didn't lecture. When I finished, my dad just said, That's hard, son. I'm sorry. My mom asked the question I'd been avoiding. Do you regret going? And here's the thing. I didn't. Not entirely. I regretted the relationship, the money, the willful blindness. But learning Thai, living in Thailand, teaching those kids, eating real Thai food, seeing temples at sunrise, learning to plant rice knee-deep in mud. That was real. That had value. The fact that Mind had lied to me didn't erase every other experience I'd had. But try explaining that to someone. Try saying I lost $13,000 and 2 years to a scam, but I don't completely regret it. People don't understand nuance when it comes to getting played. My subletter's lease was up in 2 months. I moved back into my condo in May. The place felt alien. Like I'd never lived there. Everything was exactly where I'd left it. But I was completely different. I'd email my old contacts about job opportunities and stare at my reflection in the bathroom mirror, trying to recognize the person looking back. The shame was the worst part, not the money. Money you can earn back. But the shame of having been so thoroughly fooled. Of thinking I was special, different, smarter than those other expats who got scammed. I'd read the warnings, the blog posts, the cautionary tales. And I'd thought they didn't apply to me because I spoke the language. I started seeing a therapist in June. Nice woman, South Asian, probably in her 50s. She specialized in expat reintegration and relationship trauma. I told her the whole story. She listened and then said something that hit me like a truck. You weren't stupid. You were lonely. And loneliness makes us vulnerable in ways intelligence can't protect against. I cried in her office. First real crying I'd done since leaving Thailand. Because she was right. I hadn't been conned because I was dumb. I'd been conned because I was desperate. Desperate to belong, to matter, to feel special. Mind had seen that desperation and exploited it expertly. But the desperation was mine. I'd brought that with me from Toronto. The depression lasted about 3 months. I'd go to job interviews and barely remember what I'd said afterward. Got hired at a digital marketing firm in July, smaller than my old company, less impressive title, but it paid the bills. Started running again. Joined a gym. Went through the motions of rebuilding a life. By September, 6 months after the Salon, I could talk about it without my chest tightening. Could tell the story at dinner parties as a cautionary tale. Oh man, let me tell you about my ex in Thailand. People would laugh nervously. Some would share their own stories of getting scammed abroad. Others would get quiet and change the subject. I went on a few dates. Nice women, professional, stable, but I'd sabotage things by either being too distant or oversharing too early. Hey, did I mention I'd bankrupted myself for a woman who was scamming me the entire time while I thought I was special because I learned Thai? Yeah, that's the kind of thing you save for date 4 or 5, not date 1. The anger came later. Around month 8, I'd be walking down the street and suddenly I'd be furious. At Mind for lying, at myself for believing, at the Salon aunties for laughing, at Boom for existing, at Thailand for being a place where this could happen, at myself again for being angry at an entire country for one person's actions. My therapist said anger was healthy, better than depression. It meant I was processing. So I let myself be angry. I'd go to the gym and hit the heavy bag until my knuckles were raw. I'd write long emails I never sent. I'd imagine confrontations where I told Mind exactly what I thought of her in perfect Thai, every tone correct, every word chosen for maximum impact. But eventually, the anger burned itself out too. And what was left was just this weird, complicated grief. Not for Mind, for the person I'd been, the hopeful idiot who thought learning a language would be enough. The guy who believed generosity equals love. The lonely 26-year-old who needed to fly across the world to feel like he mattered. I missed him. That version of me. Even though he'd been naive and desperate and kind of pathetic, he'd also been brave enough to leave everything and try. He'd learnt an entire language. He'd taught kids and made them laugh. He'd eaten things he couldn't identify and hiked mountains and planted rice. He'd tried to connect, even if he'd connected with the wrong person in the wrong way. By the 1-year anniversary of the Salon, I was okay, not healed completely, but functional. I had a decent job, a small group of friends, a routine that didn't feel suffocating. I'd started learning Spanish, which felt both ridiculous and necessary. Proving to myself I could still do it. That one bad experience with language learning didn't have to ruin the whole thing. I went on a date with a woman named Sarah. She was a teacher. Canadian-born Chinese like me, same sense of humour. Third date, she asked about my time in Thailand. I gave her the honest version, not the dinner party version, the real one. She listened and then said, "That sounds really painful. I'm sorry that happened to you. Not you should have known better. Not what did you expect. Just empathy. Simple human empathy. We're still together now. Taking it slow. I'm more careful with money, with trust, with the difference between kindness and weakness. She's patient with my baggage. Doesn't push when I get quiet sometimes. My tie is still there, buried but intact. Sometimes I'll hear it on the street. Some tourists looking at a map, and I'll understand what they're saying. I never offer to help. Just keep walking. That language is tied to too much pain right now. Maybe someday I'll be able to use it again without feeling sick. But not yet. I think about mine sometimes. Wonder if she ever felt bad. If she thinks about me at all, or if I was just another mark, forgotten as soon as the money dried up. Wonder if she married Boom. If she found another foreigner to replace me. If she's still working at that cafe, or if she finally got her hospitality degree. Mostly, though, I think about the lesson. The real lesson, not the obvious one. Learning a language doesn't mean understanding people. Understanding words doesn't mean understanding intentions. Fluency and wisdom aren't the same thing at all. You can speak perfect Thai and still miss every warning sign. You can understand every word at that salon and still not understand yourself well enough to walk away before it got that bad. The gift of language became a curse because I thought it made me special. Thought it made me immune. Thought it meant I'd transcended something other foreigners couldn't. And that pride, that desperate need to be different, to matter, to belong, that's what made me vulnerable. If I could go back and talk to that 26-year-old boarding a plane to Chiang Mai, I wouldn't tell him not to go. I'd tell him to make friends, keep connections outside the relationship. Don't make one person your entire world. Be generous but have boundaries, and understand that learning a language is a tool, not armor. It helps you communicate. It doesn't make you special. It doesn't protect you from your own loneliness. I tell him that he's enough already, that he doesn't need to prove anything by being different from other expats, that there's no shame in being ordinary, that belonging isn't something you earn through performance. It's something you build through honest connection with people who actually value you. But I can't go back. None of us can. We just take the lessons and try not to repeat the mistakes. Try to be a little wiser, a little more careful, a little kinder to ourselves when we inevitably fuck up again in new and different ways. I don't hate mind. That surprised me too. I thought I would. But I don't. She saw an opportunity and took it. Morally wrong, absolutely. But I played my part too. One chose to ignore red flags. I chose to make her my entire world. I chose pride over prudence. We were both performing. Her performance was just more intentional than mine. The $13,000 is gone. I'll never get it back. But I got something else. A hard lesson about who I am, what I need, why I make the choices I make. About the difference between generosity and desperation. About how loneliness can masquerade as love if you're not paying attention. I'm 30 now, 2 years older than that morning at the Salon, still in Toronto, still figuring things out. But I'm figuring them out honestly now. Not performing, not pretending. Just trying to build a life that's real instead of impressive. A life where I belong because I'm genuinely connected, not because I've paid for the privilege. And if someone asks me about Thailand, I tell them the truth. It was beautiful and painful and educational and expensive. I learned the language and lost myself and eventually found something more honest than what I'd started with. I don't recommend my path. But I don't completely regret it either. That's the complicated truth. And truth, I've learned, is rarely as simple as we want it to be. So Marcus learned Thai. He learned it well enough to understand everything said about him at a village salon, while the women who loved his money laughed about how easy he was to manipulate. And that understanding, that perfect linguistic comprehension, became both his gift and his curse. Because here's what we need to talk about. What happened to Marcus wasn't unique. It happens every day in Bangkok, in Chiang Mai, in Pattaya, in every place where economic disparity meets loneliness, meets hope. And it's never as simple as scammer and victim. It's always more complicated than that. Marcus wasn't stupid. He was educated, intelligent, fluent in a difficult language. But intelligence doesn't protect you from your own emotional needs. He needed to feel special, to matter, to belong. And mine gave him that feeling in exchange for money. Was it love? No. Was it honest? No. But was Marcus buying something even as he thought he was building something? Yeah, he was. The lesson here isn't, don't learn the language. The language wasn't the problem. The lesson is that language is a tool for communication, not a shield against your own vulnerabilities. Understanding words doesn't mean understanding people. And understanding people doesn't mean understanding yourself. If you're in a cross-cultural relationship, especially one with economic disparity, you need to have honest conversations about money, about expectations, about what this is and what it isn't. You need friends outside the relationship. You need boundaries. You need to stay connected to reality, not the fantasy you're trying to build. And if you're learning a new language abroad, that's beautiful, that's meaningful, that's worth doing. But don't let linguistic fluency trick you into thinking you're immune to being human. Don't let it become your entire identity. Don't use it to convince yourself you're special when what you really need is to be honest. Marcus is doing better now. He's rebuilt his life, his savings, his sense of self. He's more careful, but not cynical. More boundaried, but not closed off. He learned that you can be generous without being a doormat. That you can be open without being naive. That sometimes the most painful translations aren't word to word, they're truth to truth. If you've ever learned a language only to hear something you wish you hadn't, drop a comment below. If this story resonated with you, if you've been Marcus, or known a Marcus, or almost became Marcus, share your experience and hit that subscribe button because these cautionary tales matter. Real people, real consequences, real lessons. Sometimes understanding everything is the most dangerous thing of all. And sometimes the words that hurt the most are the ones we understand perfectly. Until next time, take care of yourselves out there.